Welcome back. You're listening to Across the Border, our Prophecy Reality Edition. And we've been talking about, in our previous two segments, the peace powers of apocalyptic scripture from Daniel and the Revelation. Let's do a little review before we jump into our next topic fully. We have to intently examine the shared attributes of the four explicitly named beast powers in the scripture itself to understand what a beast power can be and what it cannot be. So let's quickly review those. And the beast powers that are explicitly named are Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. And all four of these rose up out of the sea, so they share that attribute. And they assimilated and conquered each other in succession, beginning with Babylon, then Medo-Persia, then Greece, and Rome assimilated all and conquered each one before it. So what we notice first is each of these four beast powers, when they rose up, they were individually original powers. Number two is each of them conquered and assimilated the ones before them and dominated the territory and people of its predecessors, having risen up from the same locality, the sea or waters or flood. The interpretation of the symbol waters from Revelation 17:15 as peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues verifies the like symbol as referring to the old world locality, where the flood would represent conquest or warfare. Okay? 3, none of these beast powers are a division of any of those preceding it. They only assimilate. 4, they all dominated the Israel of God. Before Christ, national Israel. After Christ, the church, the supranational Israel of God, along with the other nations around them. 70 weeks were determined for national Israel, which terminated with the final week during which the Messiah, Jesus, appeared to confirm the covenant, according to Daniel chapter 9 and Malachi chapter 3, for our second witness, after which the gospel went to the nations and God's chosen people became a supranational Catholic Church. And that's with a small c, not a Roman Catholic Church, but a supranational universal church. So, gives us some clues. So, can a division of the Roman Empire be a new beast? Not by the criteria given in the scripture. Okay? Let's continue this thought here so we can look at more at what the beast powers mean. There yet remain two unnamed beast powers preceding the four sea beasts of Daniel 7. These were previously named as Egypt and Assyria, both meeting the criteria as dominating national Israel immediately before Babylon, by whom they were both, along with Israel, conquered and assimilated. You getting the idea here? So we never see a beast power split off of a preceding beast, but each beast consecutively assimilates and conquers the beast before it. So we ask ourselves the question, what cannot? Some people say that the Jesuits are the second beast of Revelation, chapter 13. And, well, no, they don't qualify. They are not a power over a locality that originated, not a division of something else, of another beast power. They just don't qualify as a beast. Okay? The Antichrist doesn't qualify as a beast. Now, he qualifies as the little horn, which had the mouth that spoke great things and blasphemies. He qualifies as the head of the beast. Of course, that head would be the Roman head, the little horn that subdued 3 others. Because he speaks great things and blasphemies, that makes him a religious character or an anti-Christian religious character. What else do people say that this? Some people say that the second beast of Revelation is somehow equated with the false prophet is the second beast. I've heard that before too, but how does a singular individual qualify as a beast? A beast is not a singular individual. It's a dominating governmental power over the earth. And there are only 7 enumerated, and the false prophet is not one of them. And unfortunately, the only person, I know a lot of people believe that the false prophet is equal to the second beast of Revelation. Fortunately, I believe that idea was birthed by E.B. Elliott himself, because I found it goes no further back than him, and that was erroneous. If E.B. Elliott were alive today, he would plainly see by the evidence of the line of fulfilled history being moved forward to revealing the truth that we're talking about today. So no, the false prophet cannot qualify to be a beast power or the second beast of Revelation 13. The second beast of Revelation 13 must be the 7th enumerated beast from Revelation 17 verses 9 through 11, because it is the only additional beast power that is enumerated anywhere in the scripture itself as a beast power. So it must be the same. And it cannot be an individual. It has to match up with the other 6 beast powers as dominating national Israel or supranational Israel, the Church of God, in both of its manifestations. Also, there is absolutely nothing in the scripture that ties the false prophet and the earth beast together. The false prophet is not named by that name, false prophet, in chapter 13 at all. The false prophet, I believe, is the antithesis of the true prophet, which would be Christ. So the false prophet is another name for the Antichrist. Okay, let's jump back to where we left off. In our last segment, we were talking about the earth beast creates an image. He, that is the earth beast, causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Principle in our search for a divine interpretation on the symbol here used, that of an image of a beast power, is that found in Daniel chapter 2 in the first appearance of the mystery Babylon image from Nebuchadnezzar's dream. In the first, we see an image of all of the powers that would dominate the world from the first enumerated sea beast, that is Babylon, its head, which demanded worship of its own image in the plain of Dura, until this amalgamation of the 4 sea beast powers goes to perdition at the return of Christ. Remember, the stone created without hands strikes the image in the feet, and it goes to perdition. It's blown away like the chaff of the threshing floor, so that no place is found for it. And then that stone cut out without hands becomes a great mountain, meaning hill, capital, and fills the whole earth. That's the symbology used there. So that's the first image and what it represents. Okay? In this second, chapter 13 image, created by the second beast, end time image, we see the amalgamation of all the powers of the earth in their final conquest of the whole earth, which will come to demand the worship of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. It is through this image that the wounded head's healing is complete, and through which it can vicariously rule the world and cause them that dwell on the earth to wonder when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. We have learned from Bible history and the temptation of Christ that it is Satan who comes to dominate all the kingdoms of mortal men, regardless of the best beginnings. So with the dragon power firmly entrenched in the government of America, that draconic speaking horn, in the New World, World War I is initiated, and America lured to engage the conflict in the first beast locality, that is, the Old World. After which, the first attempt to create an image of the sea beast ultimately failed. The League of Nations, an intergovernmental organization founded on January 10, 1920 as a result of the Paris Peace Conference that ended the First World War. America is not yet ready, but is certainly on the way to becoming the most powerful nation on earth. The onset of the Second World War showed that the League of Nations had failed its primary purpose, which was to prevent any future world war. The League lasted for 26 years. The United Nations replaced it after the end of the Second World War. World War II, in the same 20th century, fully develops American firepower in the sight of the entire earth. America concludes World War II with a miraculous firepower previously unseen, the atomic bomb, against which none dare make war. By the means of those miracles which he had power to do, America convinced the world that they should make an image to the beast. This new image, the United Nations, is an intergovernmental organization tasked to promote international cooperation and to create and maintain international order, a replacement for the ineffective League of Nations. The organization was established on 24 October 1945 after World War II with the aim of preventing another such conflict. At its founding, the UN had 51 member states. There are now 193 as of 2018. The headquarters of the UN is in Manhattan, New York City. The United Nations is the New World Order. America did not join the former League of Nations, but is a founding member of the UN. The UN Charter was drafted at a conference between April and June 1945 in San Francisco, and was signed on 26 June 1945 at the conclusion of the conference. This charter took effect on October 24th, 1945, and the UN began operation. The organization's membership grew significantly following widespread decolonization in the 1960s, and by the 1970s, its budget for economic and social development programs far outstripped its spending on peacekeeping. After the end of the Cold War, the UN took on major military and peacekeeping missions across the world with varying degrees of success. America, with its 800 military outposts worldwide, is the primary police power of the UN. Following is a resolution adopted by the General Assembly on September 25th, 2015, for transforming our world. the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And I got this from the UN page itself, and I'll go through these goals. And this will all be published at horiapocalyptica.wordpress.com within a week. So as you can see, there are some typos and such. I still have to go through it again with a fine-tooth comb. And I'm working on the next section, which will be the Mark of the Beast after this. But this is what they published as their 2030 agenda. There are 17 points here, Sustainable Development Goals. Goal 1, and remember, this is for all of the nations of the world. End poverty in all its forms everywhere. Can you say socialism? And hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Goal 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. 7, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. 14, conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine sources for sustainable development. 15, protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. 16, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. As you can see, this list goes far beyond saving the environment or fighting climate change. It truly covers just about every realm of human activity. Another thing that makes this new sustainable development agenda different is the unprecedented support that it is getting from the Vatican and the Pope himself. And I'm not just saying this myself, as all this is footnoted for you. Under this Pope, this is a quote, the Vatican has become much more political than it was before. The world is just kind of taking notice right now. Although the Antichrist has been behind it all since the turn of the century, 118 years ago. Since before that, really. But you can see it with World War I. This has been its agenda. Under this Pope, the Vatican has become much more political than it was before, and sustainable development has become the Vatican's #1 political issue. You can see why, can't you? Want to rule the world as Rome did before? let's do it vicariously, so no one will be pointing fingers at Rome. Yes. And did you notice that the language about the world's religions acting in unison? Clearly, the Vatican believes it has the power to mobilize religious leaders all over the planet and have them work together to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And I believe if you go back to the encyclical Caritas in Veritate, something like this, you put that in your search engine, encyclical Caritas in Veritate, or is it whatever, Charity and Truth, and you'll find that it is the exact same thing that are outlined in these 17 goals. This was birthed by the Vatican, and socialism and communism are all tools of the Antichrist. That's right, because they are Antichrist. Socialism is Antichrist. It's forced charity is not charity. It's socialism and it's communism. Communism forces charity. In America, the schizophrenic America, where we have this lamb-like horn and this draconic speaking horn, well, we got to struggle here. Because I live in a land where most people have capitulated to socialism. And then there are a few people like me going, well, there's no law that says I have to participate. So I refuse the number. I've repented of any participation in the past. And I walk in liberty from it. And I don't see that changing in the near future. Okay, well, that's all we have time for in this segment. And so we'll continue this conversation in the next segment. Questions, comments are welcome from my listeners. So come on. The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.